When the Buddha statues were blown up in Afghanistan months before 9/11, you called it a cultural effect of the millennium that hold the biggest global impact that no one is talking about. Could you elaborate more on that?
First of all, when the Buddhas of Bamiyan were blown up that summer before 9/11, as a forecaster, I look for indicators, things that don't fit, things that seem like a curiosity, but are very powerful harbingers of something fundamental going on. And when those statues were blown up, it just sent off alarm bells to me. I had no idea what it meant, but I was actually calling friends in Washington and said, something's just happened. There is a ripple through the zeitgeist. I don't know what it means, but something's just shifted and something big is coming down the road. And the destruction of those statues very much was that. It was also an indicator that the biggest shift we've gone through was the end of the millennium, which stirred up all these fundamentalist angst around the end of the world. The way to think about it is cultures are like operating systems on computers, and cultures can have their own intrinsic bugs. Religions are operating systems, and the Middle Eastern sky god religions have a bug built in, and that is they tend towards millenarial thinking. They tend to think about the end of the world. Year ends, we get nervous. The greater the number of zeros in a year, the nervouser we get and the sooner we get. And this was the first time in 1,000 years that we passed through a year with 3 zeros. People started getting very anxious about it in the late 1980s, the arrival of the harmonic convergence in 1988. And then you started seeing one millennial event after another in the 1990s, the Branch Davidian sect, the blowing up of the Oklahoma Federal Center. The best-selling book of the 1980s, outsold everything, including the Bible, was Hal Lindsey's late great Planet Earth. There was this great rising of people anxious about the end of the world. When the end of the world did not happen, as everybody thought in the year 2000, and things like the millennium bug was just a proxy for that anxiety, it turns out that the biggest impact of millennial thinking happens after the prophecy fails. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, there was a fundamentalist movement in the United States, the Millerites, who were convinced the world was going to end in the 1860s. And when it didn't end, most of them went away and they said, well, that was stupid. We were idiots. But a minority said, we're absolutely right, we just got the date wrong. And that was the birth of the Jehovah's Witnesses. So what you saw was a whole bunch of people after the year 2000 saying, well, the end of the world is still coming and we're going to find a way to help it along. Islamic fundamentalists and Christian fundamentalists are really no different. The belief they share in common has nothing to do with a God. It has everything to do with helping the world pass through a millennial epoch to deliver what they think is the new paradise. And so there is no difference between a couple of millennial fanatics flying an airplane into the World Trade Center, or some other fanatics blowing up a Buddha in Bamiyan, or a Christian fundamentalist in the United States saying we have to accelerate the rise of the Israeli state in order to accelerate the arrival of God in the second coming. What they all share in common is a belief in an impending end. It has nothing to do with their God.